I'm taking all credit for anyone paying attention to Train Dreams, despite the fact that many other people have
We
answered this movie. I'm taking it. Hi, everyone. I am Katey Rich. This time, 12 hours ago, as I speak, I was watching Tom Cruise talk to Michael B. Jordan in a crowded ballroom where they were packing up the tables. As you can tell, I'm really still not quite over it. It was the annual Governor's Awards hosted by the Academy on Sunday night. Tom Cruise was among the 4 people receiving honorary Oscars, and then nearly everyone you can think of who is in the Oscar race was there to celebrate and to schmooze. It is the best people watching you will ever have in your life, and I experienced a lot of it alongside Vanity Fair's Rebecca Ford, my former colleague, and an indispensable guide through these crazy ballrooms. Rebecca, thank you so much for experiencing all of that alongside me. How are you feeling today?
I'm tired, but it was really fun. It was. I look forward to Katey Rich date night every year.
I know.
Really
we get to dress up and hang out together and just stare around the room as best we can. So Rebecca and I are going to break down the highlights of the Governor's Awards and maybe some speculation about who emerged from the evening with the most Oscar buzz. And then after you hear from us, you will go back to last week where I had a live conversation in Hollywood with Jenny Han, the author and co-showrunner of the massive hit series, The Summer I Turned Pretty. Welcome to the Prestige Junkie podcast. All right, so Rebecca, last year was my first Governor's Awards, and you really did kind of give me the lay of the land. And I felt a little bit more prepared this year, but it's kind of a totally different situation because it's a different Oscar race and different people. And like Tom Cruise wasn't there last year, and this year he was there mixing it up. Do you ever get used to it? This is your 5th year. How do you prepare for this every year?
I really love this event. I feel like I don't want to ever get used to it because it is like the minute I walked into an elevator and it was Guillermo del Toro, Joseph Kosinski, and Jafar Panahi. And like, when would those 3 filmmakers ever be in an elevator together other than this award season?
Well,
so
it kind of feels like they love it
stuff
too, right? Like presumably Guillermo del Toro is as excited to see Jafar Panahi as you are. Like everyone's kind of getting to be a fan for a little while.
Yeah, and there's no losers. There's only winners at this event. And and everyone is really not fresh, but I think still hopeful, because there haven't been a lot of other awards announced. So everyone still very much feels in the race.
Yeah, I mean, I do think they're probably fresh in some way, like, because there gets to a point in award season in like January and February where you're like, oh, I'm sitting in another ballroom on another Sunday night, like watching this. And, if you're lucky enough to be nominated and stick with it, some of the people who we saw last night will not be around for the second phase of this. So this is, if it's your one shot, you feel like you're kind of trying to seize the opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just a lovely room. And a lot of those people, like, you're right, they haven't spent months with each other yet as they have. So they're still like excited to run into people. Like, yeah. I feel like Jacob Elordi was like a little social butterfly. And just like, I saw him like wandering around the room talking to everyone. And you're just like, it's so cute. And everyone's so excited.
Well, Jacob Elordi and Alexander Skarsgård had the real benefit of being very tall and very easy to, like, if you like stood up and looked around, you could figure out where they were. Someone said Hugh Jackman also. I didn't see him much, but I know he's in like the tall club too.
Yeah, I feel like he was seated more than those guys.
What I realized looking at some of the photos, like I saw a picture of like Haley Steinfeld's dress, or like Emma Stone was there, or like I saw Jason Infiniti walk in really late. But sometimes these people wear these huge elaborate dresses that you can't really move that much in. So they kind of sit and let people come to them. And I tried to do what I think you taught me to do and like go around the room. And like I wound up over on the Netflix side of things. But then I realized like, oh, the whole Sinners team is here. And I never even got near them, which I guess probably means that they had like a crowd around them. Like, did you get any sense of like where the gravitational force of the room was?
It definitely, I think, was on that side where you're talking about, where it was like all the Netflix films were in one area, but also like A24 was over there. And I saw the Sinners table, and it was like, it felt like that was really the area of the room that was the most crowded, but it's a huge room. And there were big. like I didn't even see where Wicked was. And it's like Ariana Grande is in that room somewhere, and she's so tiny and you can't even find her. But it's like, it really is one of those rooms where everywhere you look is someone you've seen on a movie screen in the last, 3 months. It's pretty incredible.
I did see Ariana Grande walking in like relatively early, because sometimes you get a lot of the bigger stars will start showing up as everyone's being ushered in to go take their seats. But she was there with Jonathan Bailey, who then I think you and I both saw at the very end of the night. Kind of like, like the look in his eyes to me was the same the way that I felt being like, oh my God, what did we just see? Which was gratifying to see someone who's been through the Wicked ringer still have that sense of magic left in his eyes.
Yeah, I think especially this year, because it was Tom Cruise who got the like last honor of the night, it made you like his whole thing, right, is I love movies. Like I make theatrical movies. And for all these people in the room, I think that gives them a lot of hope because it's like all we talk about now is sort of the doom and gloom of theatrical releases. But like, here's this guy who's made his whole life. It's the cause of his whole life, essentially. And so I think that really helped the energy feel really strong by the end because like everyone stuck around to talk after the show ended, which does not happen every year. That was pretty unique.
I was kind of surprised, like realizing, like again, like the house lights were up, people were like taking the tablecloths off of tables, and then like there's Tom Cruise, like still with just like a huge number of people surrounding him, and like and then he was at. Did you see the video of him dancing with Debbie Allen at the I guess the after party? We were not invited to.
We're not getting invited to that. Yeah, I wish we did because I would have loved to see it. But yeah, I mean, for Tom Cruise, the biggest movie star in the world, not to be whisked out of the room like 5 seconds after an event ends really says something about like how everyone was feeling about being there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise is not campaigning for an Oscar this year, but the fact that it was Alejandro González Iñárritu who introduced him, and they kept talking about the movie they made together coming out last year. I don't think I had ever seen such an obvious like next year's Oscar campaign kicking off as that thing between the two of them. I mean, I felt like it worked. What did you think?
I'm sure it worked for a lot of people. I'm so cynical that I'm like, it feels like a big red sign is like blinking that says promo, Oscar promo over their head. Because like, I do think it's a little weird if this is essentially a career honor to have someone who you just worked with be the person who introduces you instead of someone you worked with a long time ago or who really knows you. But there were the ties to the person introducing weren't always that strong, I think. But I thought that was a little strange. I mean, it was a beautiful introduction, but a little odd.
Well, like Steven Spielberg was like sitting next to Tom Cruise. Like it could have been Spielberg, but like also
he's right there.
Well, their history is like kind of famously weird though, right? Because like they had like had the falling out after War of the Worlds and then like came back together, I think at the Governor's Awards, the Top Gun Maverick and Fableman's year. So it's like it's a very Oscar-y story between the two of them that it would have been right.
And I think Christopher McQuarrie was there, who he has a lot of history with. So there were choices, and they chose to promote the film that he's doing next year, and maybe it's an Oscar movie. We don't know yet, but the rumor is fall of next year.
And Iñárritu's track record is pretty strong on that front. I mean, you think about Debbie Allen, whose presentation was right before Tom Cruise, and like you could have any number of people she's worked with over the year, but it's Cynthia Erivo, who of course is in Wicked. Like, I think she was the only presenter because Octavia Spencer presented to Wynn Thomas. I don't think she's in a movie in the race this year. And then Lily Tomlin came out on behalf of Dolly Parton. So unlike last year when I think all 4 presenters had movies in the race, it was just Cynthia Erivo in there. So I don't know if like Iñárritu took all their promo energy and that was all that they could pull off.
Yeah, I thought the Cynthia Erivo thing was actually beautiful because of, Cynthia being such like a theater person. Like the ties were there, obviously, and I thought it was quite nice. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what's so funny about this event is like it is a genuine event honoring these titans of Hollywood, but then it's also at the same time this very clear awards campaigning event. So the way they kind of have to balance both isn't always easy, but I thought it was a pretty good balance this year.
Yeah. I mean, when they first started doing these awards and taking the honorary Oscars off the broadcast, I think most like Oscar nerds are like, come on, let us see these. Like, why are you taking this away from us? But going to this event in person, seeing it as a campaign stop, having kind of the dazzling experience of being in the room with all those people and letting Debbie Allen talk as long as she wants, or like giving all this time to Wynn Thomas, who is not someone who ABC was ever going to like be begging to be on the broadcast. Like these clips go on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing. I feel like I've made my peace with them not being part of the regular Oscars. And maybe that's like my bias from having sat in the room. But I think the format they have makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it works. I too was a little bummed when they changed that. But I think giving them the time in front of essentially a room packed with their peers, it works. It is a really beautiful event the way they do it now. And I think that's okay. I think I've accepted it too.
I mean, the speeches I thought were all great. Like Dolly Parton gave a very short remote speech, which I was, sad that she didn't get to be there in person. Lily Tomlin powered through the teleprompter being challenging to her. But of course, with like the Oscar brain on, I kept like looking at the cutaways and like who was showing up on the, in the room. They've got these big screens on the side and the camera is kind of showing the audience. Like I noticed Chase Infiniti during Wynn Thomas's speech looking very like moved by what he was talking about. Did any other cutaways stand out to you?
I know they went to Michael B. Jordan a lot, which I feel like I've been thinking a lot about the Best Actor race because it is so incredibly tight. And I was like, he really, he's a movie star, and now that he's, I think, wrapped directing his own movie, he's like ready to campaign and be in these rooms. So I did notice that a lot. And I when you talk about Chase Infiniti, like I think that is someone who came out of nowhere and is running like the best campaign. She looks like a movie star. She's dressing so well. She's like so graceful in these rooms, but also like hanging out with Michael B. Jordan and Tiana Taylor. Like she's got a real cool factor to her. So I think she's running a pitch perfect campaign so far.
Yeah. Well, so I did a One Battle After Another moderating thing on Friday night with the rest of the main cast, but Chase Infiniti wasn't there. I think she's been in production on something. And so they had to like move mountains to get her from wherever she was. But she flew in like on Sunday morning in time for the Governor's Awards. Like she was not going to miss that, which I think is a really savvy move for someone who is like introducing herself. And I mean, I never got close to her. Did you even see who she was talking to? I assume she was like surrounded all night.
She had like a very large circumference on her dress, so I think it was hard
such
for
a great dress.
anyone to get close to her. But I saw her moving around quite a bit and talking. I know her. I was peeking at who were sort of the last people to arrive, and her and Tiana Taylor. I think were the two last ones to come in the room. But people seemed very excited to talk to her. I think even the Wicked star, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo and John M. Chu were all there, even though they have a premiere in New York, 24 hours after that event. So they were flying in from Singapore? So the same kind of thing where I think it was like, we got to make this event, which it really speaks to the power of being in that room.
Well, which brought me to the question of where in the world was Timothée Chalamet? Because as you well know, he was in town. He was playing basketball with Adam Sandler about 10 feet away from you on Saturday night. And then, didn't show up at the Governor's Awards. I kind of couldn't believe it. What did you think?
I can't believe it either. I think he was on the tip sheet, so it is more surprising.
You keep talking. I'm going to look up the tip sheet. This is live podcasting right now.
Which, tip sheets aren't a guarantee that anyone's going to show up. But as we know, he's going to do this his own way, this award stuff. And he did a bunch of Q&As over the weekend because the movie is coming out. I think his priority has always been release of the film over awards promotion. So he'll do Q&As that are drumming up release. Like even in our thing we did with him and Adam Sandler, like he's very smart about, this movie's coming out in Christmas. He mentions that stuff. But with the award stuff, it seems like that's less of a focus. And lucky for the studio, the movie's coming out at the peak of award season, so they don't have to make him do both.
Intentionally for the studio.
Yes,
they know.
Right.
He's not king at Christmas for no reason.
Right. But it's like, everyone was talking about that marketing spoof video that they made,
which, as far as I understand, was really his idea. He brought that to A24, and the Chalamet Sandler basketball thing was his idea or his team's idea, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much inside baseball you want to do with that, but he is kind of the driver of these wild ideas, right?
Yeah, and I think this season it feels a little more curated, I guess, in the way he's doing it than last year. I think it felt kind of random, the audiences he was going after last season with A Complete Unknown, but I feel like he's still hitting industry viewers in a way that kind of works for both, even though the things are super weird. I've never had to moderate a conversation on a basketball court and probably never will again, but it still was about acting,
I kept talking to people about the video, about the Zoom marketing spoof. And but it was mostly publicists and journalists who I talked to about it, who were all kind of I guess he knows. I wonder how regular Academy members react to that kind of thing, or how they might have reacted to it if they'd seen it, not really gotten it, and then if he'd showed up in the room and been charming, which I absolutely know he can be. I don't know that they are the audience for that at all, and I don't think he wants them to be. But if you're ever going to win an Oscar, I feel like you kind of got to do both.
I know. We'll have to see how it goes for the next few months. And I didn't get to ask anyone on the the A24 team what the reason was he wasn't there, what they would have told us the reason was, because we know he was in town. So that is definitely a big question, I think.
He was indeed on the tip sheet.
Yeah. And I think he was the only sort of front runner who I didn't see there.
Paul Mescal wasn't there. He's been filming the Beatles movies, so I think it's been hard for him to get places. I feel like there was one other one. When Leo shows up, I feel like you're all right, guys, everyone else made the effort.
Yeah.
What's
Leo's funny because he's so famous. He can't even leave his chair. I walked by him and he's just sat there with Benicio del Toro and was in a conversation with him the whole time because it's impossible for someone. But he gets there and he goes in those rooms. You're right, and he does it. And I think, I mean, I noticed Bradley Cooper wasn't there.
That's a good point. Yeah, Will Arnett was there. Laura Dern wasn't there, but I think she's been kind of selective about what she's been doing. I mean, her mom died very recently, as we know. But yeah, Bradley Cooper's like borderline invisibility around is this thing on, despite the fact that, I mean, Searchlight clearly really fought to have Will Arnett open the show with like a little bit. I thought he did like a good like kind of MC job. And then Andra Day sang Jolene as part of the Dolly Parton tribute. Like they really went for it for that movie. So why wouldn't Bradley Cooper be there?
I wonder if he is aware of how people were feeling about his Maestro campaign season and how he was kind of everywhere and like quote unquote too earnest for this whole thing, which I disagree with that sort of positioning. But like, I wonder if he's just sort of trying to do a let's let the film speak for itself kind of situation. And I think people are still just seeing that one, so maybe he'll show up in the next couple months. Yeah,
well, and this is the thing that I learn. I've been in LA forever. I feel like, again, talking to like a lot of publicists, but you start talking to people who vote and things about what they like. They're like, oh man, I haven't seen much. Like they're just now starting, which is such a valuable reminder because we've been talking about this stuff since like August, and like most people haven't seen Hamnet. It's not open yet, and it's that's why everyone shows up at these awards, right? Because they're like, okay, it's a kind of an even playing field for now.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like a lot of people last night were like, everyone's here because the race is so unformed in many of the categories. And that is in part because a lot of these extremely busy people see these movies once they hit the Academy screening site or once there's the holidays and they have time to really sit down and watch them. So it's still very early in that respect. But I love walking around and asking people, what they've seen and what they've liked, I think.
Have you got any intriguing answers from what people like? The consistent answer I've heard more than most is Sentimental Value. Like people have brought that up to me several. Okay, wow.
Yeah, which is interesting because it is a quieter film, but I feel like everyone who sees it loves it. It definitely seems to have that word of the mouth. A lot of people were talking about having recently seen Train Dreams. I think there's a lot of momentum around that film too. So it is sort of maybe these quieter movies that people are like enjoying discovering, I think, at this time. And when you feel like you're the one to discover a movie, that creates this sort of really strong allegiance. So I think both those movies kind of have that experience.
Oh, I'm taking all credit for anyone paying attention to Train Dreams, despite the fact that many other people have
we
fans of this movie. I'm taking it. No, I saw Clint Bentley because when I was over in like Netflix land and told him that I moderated a thing for No Other Choice at the Academy Museum, which also played super well. And there was a reception afterward, and I walked by someone talking to Lee Byung-hun, the star of the movie, being like, it's this movie Train Dreams. It's on Netflix, like trying to tell him to see it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting to like be at an event for one thing and overhear a pitch for another movie. Like that felt real.
That's interesting. I don't think I should say who, but I moderated something with a person who won an Oscar last year, and I was like, what have you seen? And he looked at me and he was like, have you seen Marty Supreme yet? And like was raving about it. So I think that also will really like, people haven't seen it yet, beyond the people who have been able to go to screening in town. But I think that's going to be one of those movies too, where it's just like everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, I had several people ask me about Marty Supreme as well. And like Wicked, I think a lot of people were like, is it as good as the first one? Is it worse than the second one? Like, and the Ariana Grande consensus, I feel like keeps coming
really
up
strong.
Of people like I think even people who don't love the movie that much are like, well, she does this, which is, I mean,
she's really good. She has a lot to do, for sure.
She has a lot to do, and like she and Cynthia are really still traveling as a unit, which I think makes sense for them. But like, it's much more of an obvious. Well, Ariana, I think, is the lead of Wicked for Good and is being campaign supporting, which is a whole other thing. But it's kind of interesting to watch that shift a little bit right there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious how they do it once. I don't know. The movie's coming out. They're done with sort of the release promotion. So we'll have to see if the strategy shifts for the next couple of months.
I just feel like everyone being here for this long and moderating a bunch of stuff myself, it's like everyone with any movie has spent the entire week sitting in front of audiences answering questions. Like I know. And you leave the whole experience being like, I don't know, is it still just one battle after another? Like you think you're going to be able to like read the room, and I don't know how anyone ever figures out how to read the room.
There wasn't as much this time, I think, as I've been in those rooms before, and like the Parasite crew comes in and everyone's like head whips around to see them, or they try, I didn't feel that as much this time around. There wasn't one film, I'd say, where I felt everyone was like sort of fawning over them. So that just probably speaks to the season in general, I think.
Yeah, you were the person who kind of taught me to look for that, and I was wondering if that would be an experience there. And like, I think the best would probably be the like cluster people around the Sinners group, and maybe I guess they were probably sitting by one battle after another, being from the same studio. So like those two together being the front runners. I mean, I know that Jessie Buckley was there somewhere. I never saw her.
I did see a bit of her and Chloe Zhao like dancing.
Oh,
at
nice.
the actual awards, which I was like, that's totally the vibe of those.
During the Debbie Allen, like when did
I don't know what it was. No, it was just them standing up and dancing. So they were there, but I think they were on the quieter side of the room.
I saw Chloe Zhao and Joe Alwyn leaving together, and Jessie was nowhere to be seen. And then talked to Josh O'Connor, and he was like, Jessie Buckley's my best friend, and I haven't seen her yet. And I was like, I'm delighted to know that you're best friends. They like met each other in college. But he was like, I don't know where she is. I can't find her across this like football field-sized ballroom. Even though he's one of the tall ones, he probably had a better view than most of us. Okay, we should wrap this up. But any last like idea pairings that you saw of people talking to each other that you particularly enjoyed getting to witness?
I think there's a moment where we were seated and it was like Jacob Elordi, Joe Alwyn, and Josh O'Connor.
And Austin Butler.
And Austin Butler walked by, and I was just like, all right, leading men of Hollywood.
I know.
Get it together.
I talked to Josh O'Connor after that. He was like, yeah, we all kind of just know each other. Like, Austin and I are going to make a thing. And I think it really is like you're the same age and you are going to get like...
Gone up for the same parts, probably.
Yeah, or like try to make a thing together. Like, they do all kind of like overlap in the same way. I was thinking of that too. I also, by the bar, I think in my memory it was Ari Aster, who's there with Eddington, Olivia Lachance, the director of Surat, who's so beautiful and striking, and Renata Reinsva, like all talking for a long time, I thought. So like the directors, as you were saying with like your elevator ride, feel like the ones who are like the most excited to seek each other out and have those conversations.
I mean, there's so many good directors in this year. It's like crazy. No James Cameron in the room.
No,
I guess nobody's seen his movie.
He was on the tip sheet too, because I could see, I had, you know how like you can like look down the road and you have like who you can see from your seat. Like I had a direct view of Sam Worthington, who was there for like Team Avatar. And I spoke to the film's editor and composer briefly. But yeah, James Cameron wasn't there. And they were all kind of being like, all right, I hope people catch up to our movie in time, because they're not showing it to critics in time for the awards.
Right. I mean, they've done that. That's their system, and it seems to work out fine for them. So it is funny to like have completely forgotten about this giant movie that's still coming down the pipe. So,
the last thing I thought is like at the end of the night, as again Spielberg was just like not leaving anywhere. He was talking to Mark Hamill for a while, and I was just like,
that's
like,
a good one.
The last 50 years of the movie industries are like right there together, and good for Mark Hamill for being there repping Life at Chuck. We gotta keep that energy going. Before I let you go, I think the Vanity Fair Hollywood issue is out this week. You haven't told me who's on the cover, so I'll be eagerly watching with everybody else. Anything in the issue you have that's fun that you want people to read?
I got to talk to one of the cover stars, who is one of my personal favorite actors, and always a joy to talk to. And I don't think I can say who anyone is yet, because I don't know exactly what time it's coming out. But I think the cover's going to get a lot of reaction, is what I would say about it. And I'm really curious to see what the discourse is. But it looks beautiful, and I think was a lot of fun. And it's a very ambitious portfolio, the couple portfolios that are in it. So I think people will have a lot of thoughts.
I'm excited to see it. Thank you, Rebecca. Let's go. Let's do it all again next year. Formal wear required for all the times we get to hang out.
I can't wait. Putting it on my calendar now.
Now let's travel back to last Tuesday at the Edition Hotel in West Hollywood, where I hosted a live taping of the Prestige Junkie podcast with special guest Jenny Han. Already wildly successful as an author, Jenny has made a full Hollywood pivot with the Prime Video series, The Summer I Turned Pretty. Its third season wrapped this summer. All 3 seasons were based on her original books. She was working as the co-showrunner on The Summer I Turned Pretty, and Jenny balanced fan service with this element of surprise. She made the show its own thing. It was widely embraced by the book readers, but everyone was kind of newly invested in this story of Belly Conklin and her love triangle with 2 brothers. Even if you've never seen the show, you probably heard at some point this summer somebody talking about Team Conrad versus Team Jeremiah. I definitely know that I did. During our event, we screened the 5th episode of season 3, which Jenny directed. It's the one that comes from Conrad's point of view. So I talked to her about why it was important to step behind the camera for that episode in particular, and the input she's had on the show's visual style, the Easter eggs that fans keep finding in the show, which Jenny says are not really Easter eggs, more just regular storytelling. And she did tease a little bit about what to expect about the movie that they announced is coming at the end of season 3. It was a really great crowd. If you were listening to this and you were there, it was so wonderful to see you. Thank you to Prime Video for partnering with us to make this event possible. And please enjoy my conversation with the author and the co-showrunner of The Summer I Turned Pretty, Jenny Han.
Hello. I was asked what team I am just now.
Oh, I heard.
I know. How many times have you been asked what team you are?
Every day.
And what's your stock answer?
I say Team Belly.
Okay, yeah. I think I saw Taylor Swift ask this, and she said, "I'm Team Summer I Turned Pretty."
Yeah, she
which
just
is
did that.
Also a pretty good answer. I was, just asking everybody. Some people don't know how the story ends, so we're gonna try to keep things to ourselves. But there's so much to talk about in this episode that everybody just got to see. Not the least of the fact that you directed it. After 3 seasons, this is the one where you step behind the camera in that way. And I've seen you talk about it before in saying that Conrad's point of view and specific moments of the story were so precious to you that you felt like you had to direct it. So how did that process happen? How did you step up and say, no, I'm not just going to write this, I'm going to direct it too?
Well, I knew that some of the most iconic moments from the book would take place from his point of view, and it was the one POV that we had not heard from yet. Mm-hmm. And I also think that he, as a character, is probably the most, in some ways, elusive because he's so interior, and he's somebody who I've always thought of as having a very busy mind. So I think I was excited to be able to explore that and to let people have that peek into his brain.
Yeah. I mean, the peach scene, I know, is the iconic one. What are the other moments in this that you thought, I can't let anybody else
The peach scene, for sure.
This is the main one, okay.
The peach scene, for sure. And then I think just that sort of whole motif of him kind of stepping in as her helper for the wedding. So there was just a couple of smaller scenes from there that I wanted to handle myself.
The way that you were talking about how he's kind of an internal character, and I think there's so many moments throughout the show where you just look in his eyes and you know what he's thinking. But early on in this episode, you see her from his perspective, just her face, those close-ups of her. That is just not a way that we see Belly throughout the entire rest of the show. So as a director, putting the camera there, how did you kind of change the visual language of the show or work with the visual language of the show to capture Conrad in that specific way?
My DP is here tonight.
Oh.
Sandra, raise your hand. There she is.
Congratulations.
Sandra was an amazing partner to me. I really wanted the visual language to be different. And, luckily I'm the showrunner. So I'm like, all the rules, go out the window when it's my turn. But I was sort of saving certain things for him. And I also think with a title like The Summer I Turned Pretty, it's a little bit, how shall I put it, subversive in the way that most people think they would never call themselves pretty or think of themselves as that way, especially a young person. And so it's like that thing of, so you think you're pretty, you think you're attractive, so that people would feel embarrassed to think that way. And it's part of the reason why for the books I wrote, I gave both of the brothers a POV, because they see her a certain way and she sees herself a certain way. And so with the episode, it was really, for me, I wanted for the audience to see her the way that he does.
Yeah.
And to really feel his love for her, but also visually and then also with the music as well, and having a different sort of tone, a sound that we hadn't heard before in the show.
Yeah, I really want to ask about the music because the show's obviously famous for needle drops. There's Taylor Swift to be had all over the season, but this episode is like vintage, like Wild Horses and Into the Mystic. And I don't know if Conrad is just like a boomer at heart or like what.
Otis Redding. We started off with Otis Redding, who's one of my favorite singers. And I think because he yearns so hard, he does feel so deeply, and I think through the music, it's almost like he can express himself in ways that it's hard to find the words for. So I think the audience is then able to feel in their bones, I hope, how deeply he feels for her.
Which I think is the way you've talked about Taylor Swift for Belly before. So it's kind of like this is his.
Well, people were expecting a lot of Taylor in this episode, but they weren't really, I think, thinking about the fact that it's from his point of view, though. So what is soulful to him and like what speaks to him?
Yeah. So you've written these characters, you've been running this show, you've been writing these episodes, but then you step behind the camera as a director and you're directing these actors who you know so well and you've shaped their performances. But what changes? What do you do differently directing them that you haven't done to build those characters before?
Yeah, it is really different. I mean, I love show running, and I think certainly I had an advantage coming into this because I've been working with them for years, and so I was really familiar with how they like to work and, you know, which sort of directions like resonate for them and which don't, and even like their own chemistry with each other and where they really like shine. So in a way, it just felt really natural to me, and certainly, you know, there's a little bit of a game of telephone, I think, when you're speaking to the director and being like, you know, I'm feeling, you know, like this isn't really working because blah 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 blah, and then they'll figure out how they're going to interpret that and then give that that note. And I would say, yeah, like I think it felt different for me, I guess, being the one to like have the thought and then figure out the best way to impart that thought in a way that's helpful.
It's like a language thing, like you like talk to them in one way, and then as a director, it's like stand here and make your
No,
mark
I think
and get
it's
it
like
across.
just like how can I like what's going to be the note that really resonates for them? Like how is it going to make a difference? And it is so much about just like communicating and like speaking the same language that they speak, and they're all different too. So I think I really like that challenge. But you have to, it's so like thinking on your feet because, you know, you're calling cut and then you're walking over and you don't want to like take too long because you want to keep people in the moment. So then you have to think really fast about what you can say that might make some sort of difference.
Well, and the whole idea of you write this novel and you're like, and then they get in a helicopter and then the thunderstorm rolls in and you can write whatever you want. And then when you're making a show, and especially when you're directing, like every single thing makes such a big difference. And it's so within your imagination, but it's a changing the way you can use your imagination.
And then I think, you know, obviously the words are very important to me as a novelist first. And I think sometimes what's easy on a page is different than someone like saying it. And so they're also talented and find ways to, you know, make it feel real and lived in and bring their own flavor to it.
Yeah, you mentioned the actor chemistry earlier, and obviously the story existed. You knew where it wanted to go. These characters would have gone where you wanted them to, but actors' chemistry and what they can do and how they work with each other does change things over time. So how did that change The Summer I Turned Pretty, having these specific actors be these people?
I think it was a living, breathing thing, you know, and then you see them, you work with them, and you see where their strengths lie, and then you just want to give them more opportunity to show that off. You know, I think that, like, Chris is really funny, and in season 1, he really has little opportunity to do that because the character is so withdrawn and in his own head, and he's also sort of masking what he's actually feeling. So it's a lot of, like, asks of the actor. But then I think in 2, we get to see a little bit more. And then 3, I think this episode is so much about having these kind of walls up and trying to be self-protective. And then they just kind of get worn down over the course of the episode. And you see, I think like in the dinner scene, I really wanted that to feel loose and intimate. And that was one actually where my original conception of that scene was very different than what we ended up with. And I was seeing it play out. And it's not that the words were so different, but it was more the intention. And I think originally that scene was going to be more for Jeremiah when he comes in to be a bit more like peacocking and and then kind of breaking the sort of bubble that they had been in. And then I was watching it and I was like, this feels like so bad. Like this feels like really hurtful to me when I'm watching this.
Oh no.
You know, and it was giving me like a bad feeling. And so I quickly came in and I was like, guys, I'm sorry, we're going to completely rework the scene. And so I said to Lola, I was like, Belly, I need you to really include Conrad and everything that's happening, and don't turn your back on him, but really like draw him in into this moment. And then to me, it made all the difference because it was all the same words, but it was like you weren't just like shutting out a person, you know, and.
Because so much of the show is just watching these relationships change and grow in really incremental ways. Like it's like body language means so much, and you know that's something you know as a writer, but director gets across so much.
Sure,
too.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What did you like directing the best of what we see in this episode?
I really did love doing that dinner scene just because I felt so much the value of being a writer in that moment as well, because I was able to quickly sort of like do some minimal rewrites to it, but also just like change the whole tone of it. And they were really like trusting me, so they were able to quickly, they're like, okay, yeah, okay, and completely redid it. So I loved that. But then I would also say the peach scene was really special because that was one where we had been trying to shoot that for a while. We scheduled it 3 times, and but the flower beds were not, like, they promised us they'd be ready, and it was just a dirt patch. And I'm like, that's not the vibe.
Yeah.
A dirt patch. And so then we like kept checking in on it, and Sandra would drive home on the way home and like look at it and then like see where the sun was setting, exactly where the sun was setting, and everything was like timed out. And so, but luckily as a showrunner, we were able to keep pushing it.
You keep saying all the things you get to do as a showrunner.
Yeah, you do. You get a little bit of leeway there. So then we really got to get deep into the season. And then it just felt, to me, it was very emotional because everyone knew how important that scene was to me. And I really felt from the crew just how much of an effort everyone was like doing their absolute best. You know, we were just like firing on all cylinders. And I felt really proud, I think, to be a part of the team. And also I felt so appreciative of how hard everyone was working. It was like, I think it was also on a Saturday. It was like the only thing we were doing that day. And I just felt like really happy at the end of the day. It was I couldn't have asked for more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about like the bathtub scene that's earlier is like just as emotionally charged moment, but it's on a set. And then you have to wait on the sun or the flowers to cooperate the way that they're supposed to. I mean, as a showrunner, you talk about the power you have over it, but I think you've also talked about how it's protecting the story. It's taking the story the way that you want it to be. And over the course of 3 seasons, the story evolves. It changes from the way the books are, but it also kind of sticks to a vision. Like, what's been your learning curve over the course of these 3 seasons of like, this was the story, this is what I wanted to do, but it's a living, breathing thing also, like you said. How has that evolved for you as the show went on?
It's interesting because, I try to live by, writing with the door closed and not be hearing like all the voices, because I think then you can stop hearing your own voice, And so I think it's really important to have your own North Star throughout. And to me, my North Star is always what is best for the story. And so that's why I try to like keep to. But at the same time, I think it's important to understand your audience and what they want too. I don't think it means like giving people exactly what they want, but I think it's understanding what they want. And it may not be, hopefully it's something that you hadn't even thought of, that you're like hopefully surprised and like happy with. Maybe not, but I mean, I think that's, for me, always my hope.
I mean, I think a lot of the, the fervor around season 3 that happened this summer was fans of the book saying like, is it going to change? Is it going to end in a different way? And there were some misleading photos from the set that were put out there, it seems, deliberately to make people not know.
Like what?
I mean, I think you've said that, Amazon made it so you guys had like the top level set security people to make sure all secrets were put out there. But how did you balance that? Wanting people to feel surprised and wanting them to have the potential.
It's really challenging. It's very challenging because now everybody has a cell phone and people are all like grabbing photos. And it's especially challenging when, for instance, when we were doing the scenes in the car in the final episode, well, you have to get the view outside the car as well, and everybody was just out there with their phones like this, and it looked like zombie hordes with their phones, and then we couldn't get a good shot. We kept going around, and I'm like, oh my god, like this sucks. Because it's not even about that they're getting footage; it's that they are messing up.
They're like in the shot.
They're in the shot.
Yeah,
and so you can't get a good shot, and so it makes it really challenging, I think, to shoot in public. And then, of course, it is disheartening, I think, when everything goes online immediately, and then people are like making conjectures about like what's happening. It may or may not be true. But I, as somebody who likes to surprise the audience, because I like to be surprised. I don't like spoilers.
Yeah.
I just want to, lean in and have the storyteller tell me a story, and I don't know what's going to happen. And I like that little like knot of like anxiety that I get of like, is this going to end the way that I'm hoping, or is it not? And so to me, that's part of the experience of a story. So I don't like that when the whole thing gets told.
Which is why you put out some fake spoilers and just to,
So then,
for some people
it
of the
was a big
set.
spoiler, but it was like we did have Gavin come to Paris, and
Yeah.
But
It's just so funny to try to work out someone's schedule to shoot something that like everyone knows isn't going to be in it, but being like, nope, sorry, dude, you got to get on this plane.
well, he was like a really good sport about it,
Yeah.
and happy to come, and so.
Well, and part of you're shooting in Paris, but also you shot at your alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill,
Yes.
right? So how do you pull off shooting the show around a campus full of college students?
That's
who
also
are also
challenging.
watching this show?
That's also very challenging. We did have some footage go up, which is a bummer, but all in all, I think we did pretty well in terms of how much we were out and about and how much got leaked.
Yeah. So you've got the show is on for 3 seasons. To me, it seemed to grow exponentially this year. Like the amount of attention it had been a while on there. How did you deal with that? How much did you anticipate that? And, knowing that the story is told, like you had already shot it, like what is that experience like just kind of waiting for everyone to see and knowing that the drumbeat of attention is getting louder and louder?
Yeah, I believe it went up 70% from the first season, which I think is pretty rare. Usually over time, people drop off.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of people coming to it, which was a huge compliment. And we were also weekly, which I think added to the buildup. And people were watching it like in bars and having watch parties, and people were really passionate about it, which is great. It's also very stressful to be me, because people were like all like having a lot of like
don't mess
opinions
this up.
and very passionate feelings. But I think I just loved seeing how much community was built around the show. And I mean, I love going to the movies. I love having that, weekly experience too of a TV show. So especially, what was really sweet, it was, we went into September, we finished in September, and I saw a lot of people going to college, and like they were doing like common room watches and stuff. And people were telling me like, oh, I made like some friends like watching the show. And those first few days are so scary, I think, at college. And so to be any part of somebody's like transition into that next stage was really special.
Well, and you were telling me before that it's kind of a really multi-generational experience for a lot of people, which I think, I'm imagining you like pitching the show in the very beginning and people like, oh, teen romance, like that's going to be limited, and watching the way that it grew. Did you always know that it had that level of crossover appeal in this story?
Yeah, because I really do think of it as a multi-generational show.
Yeah.
And, I never wanted the mothers to feel like just the moms. It was really important to me that they had their own wants and needs and inner lives, and that it really is a story of coming of age, but it's for all the characters are kind of coming of their own ages. Laurel in season 1 is learning that she's going to be living life without her best friend. That's a really big stage, I would say. And who is she without this person next to her that she's had her whole life? And then, so it's not just about the teen coming of age, but I think it's about all the adults as well. And, with this season, I saw like the audience was extremely diverse, all different age groups and, like it was like fathers and daughters and sons and, boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands. And I think that's really cool to connect over that. And to me, it's also really important to say that this story centered around this young girl is worthy of being watched. It's important, And I think with a title like The Summer I Turned Pretty, people like write it off and think it's just like, a silly thing. And I think too often stories about young women are discounted or seen as unserious or like unimportant. And so I hope that, because a lot of times people come to me and they're like, oh, like, I have to admit, like, I do like the show, and like I'm an adult. I'm like 30, but I love the show, and I'm like a lot of people.
You're like, I'm an adult too.
Yeah, I'm an adult. A lot of people of all different ages enjoy the show, and to me, that's what it's really about, which is that, because I've been writing books for young people since the beginning of my career. It was my early 20s when I wrote my first book, and people often ask me, "Oh, do you want to write about adults?" And like, or how do you write for young people? And I've always felt it's the same to me. It doesn't it's a person is a person, and it's just all relative to where you are in your life. So I try to treat it really respectfully, and hopefully people felt that with the show.
Yeah. Well, also with the way that the show kind of drops online week by week, I know that you've engaged with, the TikTok mashups and the fan theories and the Easter eggs that you put into the show, which like I imagine as an author, it's kind of hard not to be like, oh, if I drop this in here, I can remember this. You have the whole thing. But how has that process of kind of rewarding fan attention in that way worked for you? Like, why did that make sense?
That's interesting. Yeah. Rewarding fan attention. I think, I don't really think of them as Easter eggs in the way of that I think some people interpret like clues almost. I don't think of them as clues. I think of them, normally it's more like narrative foreshadowing.
Yeah.
It's
storytelling.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
Just like laying something down in season 1 that's going to be then it will pay off hopefully in season 3. Mm-hmm. For instance, in season 1, Belly and Jeremiah are having a conversation about her parents' divorce, and he's like, well, I think that if you don't want to be married, you shouldn't be married. Or in season 2, Belly's talking to Conrad on the phone, and she's like, I think if my dad cheated on my mom, she wouldn't even really be that upset because she doesn't really feel those fireworks. So all these sort of different themes that then later on come into play. But to me, it's more about that foreshadowing and less about like
a trail of breadcrumbs.
Like here's like 5 muffins on the table and the 5 means, you know what I mean? Like it'll come out like on the 5th episode or like that kind of thing.
I mean, there is a shot of a crossword puzzle clue that has your name in it.
That's
an easy Easter egg, I think.
That is.
You put that one up everywhere.
Yeah.
Before I know we need to wrap this up. I want to remind everyone there's going to be a reception across the hall, so please stick around after that. But I can't wrap this up without asking, there's not going to be another season of the show, but there is going to be a movie. We've been led to believe, and I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be a place where you break all the news about it. But I mean, I guess the question is, how hard was it to say, no, there's not going to be another season? Yes, there's a movie. How did that part of the negotiation go? And where are we on the movie now?
How hard did it go? You mean like
just like saying like, no, I imagine many people said, please make us another season of this show. And you had to say, no, thanks. I think,
I'll be honest and say that actually, I think that Prime Video was very respectful of my wishes as a storyteller in terms of where I wanted to land the plane and when, and were very receptive when I said I wanted to do the movie as well. So I didn't get like extreme pressure that was like, please, like we want a 4th season.
The internet was asking, but they didn't. The
internet was, but I think you, as a storyteller, know where you want to end things, and I think it's important to know. Yeah. And but I will say that I had said repeatedly that it was 3 seasons, and that was like the end of the show. But then so people were like, "You were lying," and I'm like, "No, I didn't."
A season, a movie is not a season.
A movie is different. A movie is different, and I hope that for the movie that people who have never even watched the show can watch the movie and just really enjoy the experience of it. Yeah, is my goal, and then also for the people who love the show that it'll be everything that they're dreaming of.
Last question for real, and not again a spoiler, but you've got the movie coming, but it kind of sounds like these characters are going to live on in your head, even if you don't ever write anything with them. Like they're not going to be gone for you. Their lives are going to go on. Is that true?
I think all characters are that way. It's almost like I'm not sitting there with them, but they continue on and and do their own thing.
Yeah. So someday you'll know what Belly's like at 50, whether or not you.
I mean, who knows?
We should all be so lucky. Well, Jenny Han, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, please join us afterward. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That does it for today's episode. As always, you can find so much more from us at Prestige Junkie After Party. If you go to prestigejunkie.substack.com, you can subscribe for just $5 a month, get extra bonus episodes every Friday. get subscriber chats that I'm leading every Tuesday when these episodes come out, and much more. There's a really good bonus episode coming this Friday. I promise you won't want to miss it. In the meantime, this podcast is edited by Brett Fuchs and produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thanks again to my co-host, Rebecca Ford. Subscribe to the Prestige Junkie newsletter at theankler.com and to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you next week.